friends, today I want to talk about one of the most incredible books I've read this year and maybe in my whole life, and it's astonishing that this is middle grade book. This is appropriate for middle grade March, and I want to introduce you The Lost Year by Katherine Marsh. This is a very new book. It came out this month or previous month in 2023, and I've bought this immediately because this book is about the not very well known in USA part of Ukrainian history. But let me talk about this a little bit more. So this book has 2 timelines and 3 storylines. First, there is Matthew. Matthew lives in New Jersey in 2020, and this is COVID-19 pandemic. He's stuck at home with his mom. His dad, his parents are separated. His dad now in Paris, where he works as a journalist, and he can't come back, and he can't take Matthew to him because all borders are closed because of pandemic. Matthew is very miserable, not only because he is grounded and his mom took his Nintendo Switch from him, but also because he doesn't have a social bubble, as they took his grandma from senior house. She is living with them now. She is 100-year-old, and they can't risk bring COVID to the house. He is very lonely. He is very bored. And he is supposed to help his grandma to look through her boxes that she brought with her from senior house with herself. And in one of these boxes he found a photo of 2 girls around his age, and this photo made his grandma very sad and a little bit frightened. He understood that there is some story, some mystery in there, and he wants to be like his dad, like a journalist, and uncover this mystery and bring the truth to the light. This journey brought him understanding of his heritage, of importance of his family history, and also of danger that there is in family history. Other timeline is 1932. There is Mila, a 12 years old living in Soviet Ukraine in Kiev. She is a daughter of high rank communist. She is very privileged, and she is living in also sort of social bubble, not understanding and not willing to know what's happening with other people. There are rumors about famine, about hunger, and she can see that something is going on, but her dad said her that everything is fine, and she saw newspapers where Papa Stalin taking care of his people, and she believes in greatness of Communist Party, and she doesn't want to believe her eyes. Her bubble will pop up very quickly and very painfully. Also there is Helen. It's also 1932, and Helen is also Ukrainian. Her parents are Ukrainian, but now they are living in Brooklyn because they immigrated just 10 years ago. She got a letter from her relatives from Ukraine telling that there is hunger and they need help. And she took her cross and sewed it in one of the nightgowns and sent it to them, hoping that it will help. This gesture, but also willingness to know the truth about what's happening in Soviet Union and Soviet Ukraine, not believing the news, the newspapers, and this very American understanding of social justice will bring her discoveries and will change lots of people's lives. This is one of the most powerful books that I've read in my whole life. Even, I mean, not only as middle grade, but as a books in a whole. Mostly because it doesn't shy away from the truth. It doesn't try to make the truth looks pretty, and but in the same time, it works with the history and with the heritage and with the fake news, people's fear of power, of borders, of anything. Explains it for kids in such a way that it makes the truth even more powerful, even more bitter, but also brings some hope. And I don't know, this is brilliant. This is a book, again, about family connections, about family heritage, about family mysteries, but also how our history and how our heritage, even if we don't know about it, shapes our lives and our decisions. This is a book about social justice, about fake news, about trying to work your way through the world, to understand the world of grown-ups, but also the world in a whole, and also this very timingly, understanding that you still can do something even if you are a small child. Also, of course, this is a historical fiction which tells about horrific and not very well known part of Ukrainian history. For you to understand Holodomor, this great famine in Soviet Ukraine in 1930s, was acknowledged by international community and historians only in 1980s. So 50 years Soviet Union was hiding it, like millions of people died and no one believed it because official people told the world that it's not a truth. And also this oral history brought this to the light, which is incredible if you think about this. In my family, I believe there are deaths from this famine, because my family lived in the middle of all this, but actually I do not know them, because it was dangerous to share these stories with kids, especially because kids talk more than adults, and this oral history is hidden still, or maybe is lost in my family, which make this book even more important for me, because I can show this to my kids and I can make them understand their heritage, because even if I don't know this about my people, I still know this about my country, and of course it shaped me in a way. Like an example, my parents are now living with us because of war in Ukraine. We took them temporarily to USA and they are living in our house. And the bread, the cheapest bread, but bread, is the most important part of every meal. And this is like in the DNA. My kids do not understand this, but in a time they begin to understand that this is important for their grandparents. Bread is something sacred in our family because of this story, actually. Because of this oral history, this is hidden from my side, but it is somewhere there. Katherine Marsh is also not a stranger to these stories. There is at the end author's note about history of her family. Her family came from Ukraine. This is this is the author with her grandma or grandma, who immigrated to America in 1928, and there were people in their family who came to USA during this famine, and she knows these stories from her relatives that are still living in Ukraine or were living in Ukraine during this famine. So this is part of this author's history and of her culture, which is actually very important, because one thing I want to tell, I usually cringe reading books about Ukrainian and Slavic anything, Slavic folklore, Slavic culture, because usually people do not really know what they're writing about, but here everything felt so authentic, from food they were eating to small things they told to each other. All Ukrainian and Russian words in here are true. All songs from here I know by heart. This was actually even frighteningly touching, because it felt like I knew these people, because this author talks about something we both know so well. I'm sorry, I cried so much reading this book. This is such a powerful, emotional story. One thing I want to tell, I don't think this is a book for younger middle grades. My daughter is 10 and I think she's too young for this. I will wait for maybe 2 more years. Matthew is 13 and I think that's the perfect age to give this book to a child. 13 to 15. This is more like older middle grades, because no, there is no sex, there is no violence, there is no bad language in here. But there is so much misery and death and people losing their hope that I just don't know how to explain this to my daughter and to make her to feel the hope that there is, like, this book is full of good things and hope and feeling for other people, but also a betrayal, helping other people, but also damage can be done with this. This is incredible. This is so powerful. And I do think this is very American book in a way, because first, this is about immigrant experience, and also this part with Matthew and also Helen in Brooklyn, this is very understandable for USA people. But also this fear that Mila feels and the horrors of her life is very understandable to me. So this is great, perfect example of older middle grade, very powerful, brilliant. I liked everything about this. I can't think about anything that was wrong with this book. I don't think that author will watch this video, but Katherine, if you see this, thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the whole my family. When my daughter grew older, I definitely will give them this book, and I am grateful for this. Thank you for writing this. This is very important, especially right now. We are now in the middle of Russian invasion, and it's unbelievable how much one territory and one people can experience of bad things and horrors through generations. It's just incredible if you think about this. Again, highly recommend. Perfect for middle grade March, perfect for adults reading middle grade. There is this sky prompt in middle grade March 2023. Here you go. I really like this cover. It's, you know, different. This is Mila in Soviet Kyiv, and this is Helen in Brooklyn. Loved it, highly recommend, broke my heart, but also incredible. Thank you for watching this, and hope to see you in the next video soon. Bye.